but we're just going to talk about some of the things I've found out about it, and I think hopefully how it makes sense for you. And ultimately, when it comes down to it, this, like every part of your preparation, is your decision. So it's really going to depend on what you think you want, what your requirements are, and what you want to spend to meet that. So I mean, there's a couple options for you in radios. So make a decision what works best for you. I guess right off the bat, oh, you brought my radio here now.
Only because I want you to show the novice what this is all about.
This is our newest model, TK100. With this radio, you can get a range about 100 feet from one side of the pool to the other. So the push to talk is you lay on it and paddle. I'm just kidding. My daughter loves that little thing. She's about a year old and she plays with it all the time. So, but kind of getting into emergency preparedness communications. So the first thing you need to think about, or I guess the first thing I like to think about when it comes to communications in an emergency, is it's often one of those forgotten about aspects. When people talk about emergency preparedness, a lot of times they focus on food, water, power, security, all really good, strong things to consider, and that definitely should be part of your emergency preparedness kit. But if anybody remembers Laszlo, I think it's Laszlo, right? Communication and society is right up there. As soon as you can secure enough for yourself to be good for the next 6 hours or whatever you need to be, you're going to start thinking about the people around you, your family, your community. Yeah, yes, exactly. And how communication works in America nowadays is really based on networks. Networks that you buy into or share time on, whether they're cellular phone networks, whether they're amateur radio networks, they're home phone networks, and even back to the good old days, having the copper wire right into your home phone, going up to voice over internet protocol. You know, a lot of people are using internet services for home phone services now. So the problem with all those services is, it works great, however, they're reliant on some physical structures to maintain communications. And if we're talking about emergency preparedness, there doesn't necessarily have to be damage to those physical structures for you to be impacted and to lose communication. A good example is just a year and a half ago or 2 years ago during the power outages down here, many people lost cell phone and telephone communication for a short period of time. Even though there wasn't an interruption to the physical network, it's because congestion is one of the big issues. And that basically is too many users using the same network at one point in time. So one of the things SEC does recommend, if you have a cell phone in the case of an emergency and something happens, the easiest way to get a hold of others is to use text communication. Text actually operates separately from the phone line, so you're going to be able to get data bursts over quickly and in packets, so you should be able to get through, whereas you might not get through on an actual cell phone call. However, that's still reliant on that physical network being there and you being able to tie into it. One of the things that I thought was really interesting, what made sense, was that if you actually go through and read some of the documentation on the SEC in response to an emergency, their primary concerns were first taking care of their own, finding their people, accounting for them, finding out what the situation was. A couple key points later, they start worrying about the internal communication network for the FCC. Following that, they start looking at the communication network for other government bodies. And then way down the line, it goes to public networks. So, self-admittedly, some of the documents I read, they admitted that, you know, it might be a matter of days, weeks, and even months before they even start considering looking at and repairing existing networks. So how are we going to stay in touch in the meanwhile? The easiest answer, and I think the most cost-effective answer, is obviously radios. Obviously, most of you here today have seen a lot of the radios that are on, whether they're amateur or professional like on our side. But the biggest thing about radios is they operate both with networks and also independently. Specifically, the business radios that we sell and the family and general mobile radio service products generally go radio to radio, so they're not relying on any network. Now, because of the fact that they are radio to radio, there's obvious limitations based on environment, based on location. You're not going to be able to reach out to your aunt in Ohio to let them know that you're okay. However, your spouse could go to the store You can get a hold of your neighbors. You can coordinate with your local community departments, whether they're CERT teams, church, or even a community organized group. You can work within that network to provide like a solution for yourself. Amateur radio operators will tell you that wide area communications is really up their alley, coordinating with the Red Cross, other local wide area groups. But once again, it depends what you're really looking to do. So, with that being said, let me get into a little bit about the different areas of radio. Does anybody have any questions on emergency response or any of the first stuff here? Go ahead.
I haven't heard you use the acronym GMRS yet, but we're talking GMRS technology with your product.
No, we're not. And that's where I was going next, so that's a great lead-in. Does anybody have any quick questions on emergency or before I get into that? So, a great question. There's really 3 but 4 types of radios out there right now. It's segregated by Kenwood and most of the major radio providers. Land mobile products, which are the professional, industrial, government fleets, whether they're digital or analog. They help coordinate all the police, the local response groups. That's the large wide area networks you see out there. Business radio products, which is a majority of what we do and what Be Ready offers. These are the same type of products as a land mobile product. The large difference between the two of them is that they don't require any dealer programming, meaning they come out of the box, set up like a power tool. You turn it on, there's 4 to 16 channels on it. You can hit push to talk. They'll communicate not only with the other radio you purchase, they'll communicate with other brands. The other big difference between that product and the next one in land mobiles is that you can actually reprogram the radios on the units themselves. I'll give you a demo as we go through here, but the key to that is that these radios come pre-programmed with 90 frequencies inside of them that you can reprogram each individual channel to. Got a question? Oh.
So your radios, there's the set protocol, CITT or whatever it is, the governing agency, and that's how you're able to communicate across the spectrum with a different radio.
It's all about frequency. Just like with your car stereo, you're driving down here. I like sports, so I listen to AM 570 all the time. It doesn't matter what brand of stereo product I have. If 570 is the important designator. Same thing with our radios. What you see when you pick up a radio is usually anywhere, like I said, between 4 and 16 channels. Now, a channel is just a preset that locks into that frequency. With family mobile and general mobile products, they have up to 27 channels, I believe. I'm not exactly sure, but it's around 27. Those are locked. Those 27 channels ship out on every unit. They're the same 1 through 27. With these right here, the channel number is not as important, it's the frequency number. And to make it simpler, instead of actually using the full frequency designation, we only use a table number. So your owner's manuals have the same table numbers in there. 1 through 90 for Kenwood are the same as they are for Motorola and some of the other brands as well. So it's really, like I said, the key point of this segment is that the same quality of product made to 11 mil specs as you get with a land mobile product. However, you can take care of it yourself. It's treated like your drill is at home. Then general and family mobile product, you'll see those sold through over-the-counter dealers. Walk in places like Costco, Lowe's, that type of product. Generally, you're going to see 2 of them sold at one time in a package. As far as the big differences between those products and ours, besides the obvious build of them, it's really in power and that being able to reprogram it. Generally, general mobile products and FRS products between a 1/2 watt to 1 watt in power, typically using VHF frequencies. Some of them use UHF as well. Again, I said the big thing there is when you go into Costco and you pick those up, the 27 channels is what you get. So if 1,000 people go to Costco, pick them up, and an emergency hits, and everybody turns their radio on to channel 1, everybody's on channel 1. So you kind of, back to that congestion issue. The other big differences between that type of a product and our type of product really is in build. And as I mentioned earlier, our radios are built to 11 mil specs. One of the biggest things that we did is we engineered the product to last industrial settings, which means that they're made to take a 6-foot drop on a regular basis. I thought I was going to hit that for a second. So this radio right here, I've actually thrown off the roof of this building here 3 times. You can see it by the bottom of it, but Oop, that's not the one that's coordinating. But you can still see it still matches. You can still reprogram it. Test 1, 2, test 1, 2. You know, it's extremely durable. We manufactured it to be dropped. We manufactured it to be made to that setting because these are mainly used every day in construction and industrial use where they are dropping them. So the benefit for you if you're thinking about yourself in an emergency preparedness situation is really not just the durability of it, because I don't expect you to go throwing your radios. When you want people's attention, just throw it at them instead of calling them. No, it's, yeah.
In order to get decent range, you need to higher power, and for that you have to have a license on it.
Yes, yes.
And then they charge you some big fee for the license.
Licensing is different per channel. So licensing is like getting your operator's license and all your licensing for amateur radio. To do that, you have to go through class. You got to go through classes, invest in the education side of it, as well as there's a nominal fee as far as the FCC is charging for it. FRS and GMRS, you also are required to do licensing. There's a quick class. I think FRS. I don't think GMRS you have to take the class, but FRS you do. There's a small class online. It's really simple, and once again, a nominal fee. Business radio products require licensing of the end user per frequency. Is the important verbiage there. If you're talking about an emergency situation, you can request and apply for use on licenses in emergency situations. And what they mean by that is there's been precedences where people with this type of a product or land mobile product in an emergency have been able to tie into the police networks and stuff. So licensing is required of you, and if you're going to be interested in this type of product, I would suggest you look into it. If you're a public organization, there's things that you can qualify for that you won't be required to get licensed, or you're not required to pay for the license, excuse me. But the individual end user, it can be about for a single license, it's $100 for 3 years, or $200 something for 10 years for three channels. Once again, going back to how I started off this conversation, it's all about what you want out of your solution and what you want to invest into it. The licensing is required of the end user by the FCC. Everything above 1 watt is required to have a license. So that's why some of those FRS, GRS products have it if they're more powerful enough. Less than 5% of even industrial users license their product. Fines for the licensing, if you don't have a license and you're caught using it, run around the couple $100, $500 range. So they can be kind of pricey. But like I said before, less than 5% of the customers that actually buy these products do license them. So with that, not that I got a little bit segued, sorry. The benefits to you as far as this type of a product or even a general mobile product is looking at how it stores, how it uses in the time of an emergency. So one of the big advantages of the business and land mobile products is in our battery type. Generally our radios will use lithium-ion batteries, not NiCad batteries too much anymore. You can still buy them, but ship with lithium-ion. Lithium-ion batteries won't have a strong draw, so you can take it, charge it, store it, and it's not going to have that battery fade that you're going to see with old NiCad batteries. So really it's something that you can take, have it set up for a rainy day, set to work. It also can coordinate with some of Be Ready's solar powered batteries and generators. I've used it specifically with our 45 watt radio, which draws a lot of power. Worked fine. So this is something you can use with solar power. You don't have to have the power network there. And the reason is the batteries, lithium-ion batteries we have, last up to 22 hours and charge in less than 3 hours. So basically you're going to get a full day's worth of use out of one radio. Like I said, primarily our customers are in industry and they put that to the limit. You're seeing 2 shifts put on one radio. FRS, GMRS products will either use NiCad batteries or else AA batteries, AA battery packs. So you're kind of caught into having a bunch of batteries on stock. Typical batteries life on a NiCad is about a 6 to 8 hour charge time depending on which model and charger, and up to a 14-hour max product life. So a little bit of difference there. The other big thing is, as I mentioned, the field programmable in an emergency is kind of key. once again, we're talking about a situation where there's a complete loss of communication, there's a complete loss of, basically a lot of social structure. So the important thing for you is you can take it out of the box, communicate with the other radios that you have stashed. And if you bought them as part of a group or community, you guys can have it set up. Now, the license that you buy as well can be licensed as a community. So you can go in with as a group, say your church, your city of such and such, and set up the license through that, and then everybody can be on there. It's not individual users are required that $110. You could also take the radio out, use channel scanning and the field programming on this, and match up to other users out there as well. So this is a 4-channel, 16-channel model. What that means is you can have channels 1 to 2 set up for yourself, communicate with your neighbors, but you can also be in contact with other people out there that might be searching for assistance, might be able to provide you with outside assistance. And as I mentioned earlier, this is one of the fastest growing segments in radio right now. The last several years we've averaged about 1 million units a year shipped, and our estimates are about 50% of users are first-time users. So there's a lot of this product getting out there in the field, which means there's more opportunity for you to be connected with other people on a one-to-one basis. Really quick, I'll go into like how to do the field programming to show you how easy it kind of is. Because basically the one thing that separates the Kenwood brand from other brands on the market is that you can pick up the radios yourself without any training, just the owner's manual, and you can reprogram the radios. This is different because most manufacturers require that you have software. It requires a laptop. There's an accessory that goes through it. It's a little more cumbersome. With these radios, you just turn them on off setting. I don't expect you to remember this today, but if you do, that's great. Turn them in the off setting. You can depress the push to talk button and the top selector button, and it'll take you to programming mode. Now there's a 15-second timeout, so I'm going to do it kind of fast. But when you're in programming mode, you can change the channel or the interference codes. Does anybody know what interference codes are? Basically, they're like a password. They're either digital or standard, and what they do is they take your frequency that you're on. Like I said, there's 90 in this radio, and then they also put that password on it, so the only people that can hear you communicating have that password and that frequency. Once again, it's a way to cut off unwanted users so that you're not cross-talking. So to reprogram the radios, turn it off, hold down the push to talk button and the top selector button, turn the radio on, and it'll say self.
Channel.
And channel, QT, DQT, 2 types of interference codes. So in channel, hit push to talk as the enter button.
Table 8, 9, table 8, 7, table 8, 6.
Hit push to talk, it locks in the new frequency. You can change it to another channel. We'll add a quiet tone on this channel.
QT1, QT2.
Then you turn the radio off. Now it's reprogrammed. If you guys remember from earlier when I threw this radio, it doesn't matter too if you turn the radio off, you take the battery out, you leave it sit for 5 years, it doesn't matter. That's the new frequencies for this. So now if you remember, I threw this before, but when I picked it up it still worked on channel 1, but now I changed channel 1, so let's test it out. Check 1, 2, check 1, 2, check 1, 2. So now they don't communicate anymore. Channel 2, I added a privacy code where I said basically it's a password. Let me show you. Check 1, 2, check 1, 2. If you guys can see, there's a green light showing that there's somebody communicating on the radio. You can open the squelch and hear somebody talk, but you're not actually getting the communication over the top. That's the privacy code. Basically, it keeps your conversation private, but still people know that you're communicating. So the really nice feature then is, so this is great because you can take it out, you can program to match what you want. You're basically connected now, at least on a community level with people around you. The other easy thing is if you coordinate as a group and purchase Kenwood radios or whatever brand you choose, you do it as one. We offer a wireless cloning function which allows you to take the settings of one radio, transmit it to over 200 plus radios at one time. So in an emergency, if everybody had this radio right here, they came in and got together at the school parking lot, the church parking lot, your designated area, you can all program your radios at that time to match each other. Everybody gets on the same page. It doesn't require any software again, it doesn't require any accessories. Instead of holding the top button and the push to talk, we're holding the bottom button, the push to talk button, turning it on, it's going to say clone.
Clone, channel 1.
And then you take the master unit, whichever one you want to have the settings to, it really doesn't matter. It's going to copy to everybody. Hit push to talk. And as long as you're within range of each other, you've turned it on to the clone setting, it'll transfer all the settings on there. So that's the way that you can be connected as a group very quickly, very fast. And like I said, it's been known in the past that certain CERT groups, Red Cross affiliates, have been known to give users their frequencies so they can help coordinate in an emergency. It takes about 45 seconds to do. Which leads me to my next point, and really the meat of this whole deal. Analyzing the situation, deciding what works best for you, works best for your family, and works best for your community. And the most important part of that is developing a sort of community protocol. I'll pass this around real quick as an example. This is one that we were assisting a certain group on, as far as how they're going to communicate with each other, because the most important thing is congestion. Congestion is really what the FCC lists as the biggest problem in an emergency. So having a coordinated effort with your community will allow you to set up a network, basically independent of a physical structure that you can use to communicate in an emergency. And really, to me, if I looked at my neighborhood, it's a good example of this. I believe that the business radio product is more powerful than the FRS and GMRS product, thus will give me a wider coverage area, allowing me to go further and coordinate with other groups. Also, the fact that they can field program, I think that's a big advantage. So I use those as my community network, but I also know the limitations of the radios. This is a community base. At max, the business radio products, sorry, I should have been passing these around the whole time. At max, the business radio products will do 1 to 3 miles on this product right here, and up to 10 stories, 1 to 3 miles. The most powerful radio we have, a 4 and a 5 watt, will do anywhere from 7 to 9 miles at max. Now every environment's different. I can tell you specifically because we've done testing in this area, because of the hills and the valleys and everything, these limit the range. It gives you about 3 to 5 miles, maybe max. So these are a community-based solution. You still need to have ties to that amateur radio network, because they're going to be helping you coordinate on a regional and national level with the National Red Cross, other aid groups. Those are the keys. So this is how you fill in the network underneath, whether it's business radio products or FRS, GMRS products, and then you're having a coordinated effort with those amateur ham operators. Any questions really quick on general radio stuff? Or when it comes down to two-way radios, each segment of the market has a different group of competitors. In my segment, Kenwood and Motorola own 92% of the market. And if you know anything about the radio industry, the two-way radio was basically invented by Motorola in 1918. They still have the strongest brand name with a delicious new Coke kind of feel, Pepsi. We've been around since 1946. In the last 10 years, we went from having market share in the single digits to, in the professional side, we're up to just over a third now. So we're growing very fast, especially strong in the digital and analog markets. Mainly it's because of the durability of our product, the fact that you don't require those accessories. In the FRS, GMRS product range, we don't actually have a product anymore. We've taken out of that market because of the really the whole base it's on. There's Midland Radio, Cobra Radio, Motorola, and about 30 to 40 other guys. So there's a lot of options in there.
Are any of these built for waterproofing or tactical apps, that kind of thing?
Great question. These are, thank you, and thank you. Did anybody drop these? Don't wreck them, man. These are, yeah. And that's why you don't want to have my demos, right? I finally broke a radio after about a year of throwing these things, and I throw these. You can see this is the one that I usually throw, the one I did off the roof here, or is it this one? This one. I've thrown this at least 1,500 times. You can tell by the bottom. If you want to pass it around, 1,500 times and twice off the roof here. So, yeah, we've really taken. I haven't had that one radio there. I put a different battery on because the battery's low, but it's the same exact radio. And really the reason is it's got stainless steel fasteners instead of poly fasteners. Made to 11 mil specs. The mil specs, the ones that are really important, I guess, are it's not submersible, but it's for use in driving range. It's saltwater resistant, dust intrusion resistant, high heat and low heat. So I've actually got my table out there in the sun and my radios are soaking it up. Heavy duty polycarbonate. They'll get hot. They won't sun fade. They won't crack and dry out. As I mentioned, stainless steel fasteners to hold on the accessories, to hold on the belt clips. If you've ever seen a guy with an older radio, the first thing I do is turn it over and look at the belt clip, because usually, oh, this is that, not that, sorry. Usually the belt clip is gone, long gone, so now they have to carry it around in their pocket. But stainless steel fasteners, also stainless steel antennas, because this is how people use radios every day. I see it every time. And they go like this, hey, this is great. But stainless steel antenna is very easy, replaceable. If you're looking at your emergency preparedness kit, you're not going to probably worry about those type of things because you're not going to use them every day that heavy.